It's the Agribusiness Report. I'm Tony St. James. We're joined today by Marshal Sewell. Marshal is a producer from Florida. Hey, it's great to see you.
Yes, sir. Great to be here.
Now, we're in Salt Lake City for the American Farm Bureau's annual convention. Have you ever been to one of these conventions before?
I've been to state events, but this is my first time at the American Farm Bureau convention, the big show, and also it's my family's first time in Utah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about you and your operation. You've got an operation in Florida. What will we find on your farm?
So I grew up on my family's 5th generation operation in Plant City, Florida, and historically our family has always been in specialty crop production. So primary crop, strawberries with mixed vegetables in the fall and spring. So think things like peppers, squash, things like that. And we would also run a few commercial cows on the side as well, but the specialty crop market has always been the primary focus of my family's business.
Let's talk about some challenges, and we're also going to talk about some opportunities as well. But obviously there are challenges, especially whenever you're talking about like ag labor, for example. What are some of the challenges your operation's facing right now?
Yes, sir. I think you could probably throw a stick anywhere in agriculture and you could hit on some different challenges. And that's one thing about farming. There's no shortage of the challenges. And a lot of times when we really start breaking them down a little bit, we're facing a lot of similar issues and challenges. They're just disguised a little bit differently, or they're a little nuanced here and there. But there's all sorts of conversation about water, labor, market volatility, weather fluctuations, just things like that. In the fruit and vegetable industry, the Florida industry, we're not immune to any of those either. So I think when you really start looking at labor shortages, especially in perishable crops such as fruits and vegetables, that's a really big issue. Anytime also just navigating new and evolving regulation and policy, lots of things that add stressors and just different challenges to farmers and ranchers all across the nation, not just in our community.
Well, we're obviously talking about some challenges, but there are opportunities there as well. When you look at the opportunities, are there enough opportunities that the future's exciting, if you will?
Maybe I'm just too much of an optimist, but I have to think so. I believe that there are plenty of opportunities, and I like that you're framing the challenges and the opportunities together, because just as our family has always said that farming continues to evolve year after year and generation after generation, the challenges evolve as well, but I believe that our tools and our resources also continue to evolve. And we adapt. That's what we do. We're resilient in the farming community. And so I do choose to believe, as an optimist, that there are plenty of opportunities to go around and continue to make the farming and ranching lifestyle worthwhile.
Now, Marshal, people are going to recognize you here at the American Farm Bureau Federation's annual convention because you were actually featured in a video presentation during the general session. Let's talk about that for a moment. How did all that kind of come about?
Yes, sir. So it's I'll say serendipitous. That's the term I'll use for the way that it all came together. But my family and I have for years now been advocates on the topic of farm stress and especially farm suicide, given some of the experiences that my family has seen on our own operation historically. And it's a very stigmatized, taboo topic. It's something that historically we would not talk about within our local community or even within agriculture in general. But as my family continued to advocate and continued to just realize the growing concern around farm stress, farm mental health, and farm suicide, realized it was something that we really needed to lean into to continue engaging in that conversation and hopefully opening up more doors for more people who might be in need. So you actually asked to talk a little bit more about how the video piece came together, and that's something that it was a fantastic opportunity where historically I've been involved with American Farm Bureau through their Farm State of Mind campaign, and now in this great collaboration between the Ad Council and Huntsman Mental Health Institute and now American Farm Bureau, we've been able to work together in creating this video campaign where we're actually spotlighting and storytelling real issues from real people within the rural communities and farming communities around the United States. So my family was chosen to share a little bit about our lived experience in the hopes of that resonating with people within our agricultural industry, and just recognizing that despite the fact that there are challenges and issues, there's hope, There's opportunities, and there are resources.
You mentioned fifth generation. Is that outside of agriculture, farming, and ranching, and forestry? I think some might not understand the weight that comes with maintaining a fifth generation farm. That's a lot of weight between your shoulder blades, isn't it?
It is, and it's interesting you say that. We talk about it a lot within our family and even with other people throughout our network, but within agriculture, it's almost like we carry that with a sense of pride. You know, we are X generation on our family's ranch or our family's farm, and we carry that around like a badge of honor, but at the same time, when I hear that, I also associate it with pressure. That's something that I can recall hearing from my grandpa and even from my dad, going through difficult times or going through those tough seasons. I don't want to be the generation that loses the family farm, or I want to make sure that this business is here and it's going to be able to be passed down to the next generation. And knowing that kind of pressure rides on people's shoulders, that's a lot. And so yeah, that's definitely been a part of our story as well.
There's so many different directions we can go here. I had somebody tell me at one time, they said, when it comes to mental illness, if you will, and the pressure that comes with that, too often we've thought of it as being an illness, whereas we all get the cold, we all get the flu from time to time. It just happens. It can happen to anybody, and it's not a weakness. Absolutely not. And I would actually I'll use that terminology you shared. You mentioned mental illness, and my family really speaks on the concept that the statistics show that approximately 20 to 25% of most Americans deal with some sort of a mental illness. We say 100% of us deal with mental health. I mean, our general well-being, our brain health, if you will, and maybe what we need is some rebranding or some marketing or something and call it mental fitness or mental exercise. Maybe that would make it a little more appealing to people. But I think when people start throwing around jargon like mental health, mental illness, and those things, and some of the misconceptions that go along with that, it turns people off. And maybe it's a subject they don't necessarily want to talk about, but I do think that none of us are immune to mental health. All of us deal with stress in some way, shape, or form, and we do have to be prepared and willing to deal with those. You mentioned run some cows as well. We don't have any problems making sure that our herd's healthy. We'll make sure that they're vaccinated or that we're caring for those animals. So maybe that's a way we can take this conversation to those who are hearing it or watching it. What are some things that we can do, whether it's for us or it's for somebody else that we might be concerned about? Are there some, not necessarily tools, but are there some things that we can be doing for ourselves? I personally believe that there are some fantastic and relatively straightforward points of entry into getting more involved in this mental health space. And I think that it's being open to just what you're going through and what you're dealing with, being able to admit that maybe you're having a hard time or you're dealing with some of those stressors. And also, a really good starting point is identifying your go-to people. Knowing if something is going on, if you're dealing with something heavy, who's my person or who are my people? Is it my spouse? Is it a relative? Is it a friend or another farmer or rancher in the community? Somebody that I can reach out to and work with. But I also think too, and part of this campaign is the collaboration with Ad Council and Huntsman Mental Health Institute. It's been titled Love Your Mind. People can find more information on that as well. It's loveyourmindtoday.org. But one of the calls to action that we've had is really just finding some of those simple things that you can implement right now. And for me personally, I really like to have a morning routine. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, but I just like to spend a little time in the morning doing something that is good for me, that's positive for me, start my day out on the right foot, start my day with a sense of gratitude and realize that that day is going to be a new opportunity. Now, that might necessarily resonate with everybody, but what I will say is there are plenty of proactive things that the average everyday farmer and rancher can be looking to.
Maybe it's finding ways to mitigate risk on your family operation. Maybe it's having more proactive conversations with family members and friends. There are different tactics that you can employ. And so I would just encourage anybody listening to just spend some time thinking about the quick, simple things that you can turn into healthy habits and make sure that you're incorporating into your day-to-day.
Marshall, so great to see you. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for telling your story. We wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
Marshal Sewell is a producer from Florida, from Salt Lake City, the site of the American Farm Bureau Federation's annual convention. I'm Tony St. James. This is the Agribusiness Report.